Live, local, late-breaking. This is Eyewitness News 5 at 6.
The way to build it is as another turnpike. We're covering the metro for you tonight. State Senator David Hubert believes an outer loop is necessary. He also believes you'll have to pay to pave. Eyewitness News 5 reporter Terry Watkins joins us live from the proposed northern edge of the loop. Terry?
Well, Susan, Senator Dave Herbert doesn't like the idea of paying for a turnpike, but he's also worried about how much it could cost all of us in this state if there isn't an outer loop. Traffic means pollution. The EPA doesn't like pollution, and Oklahoma City is already in trouble over our car pollution. Herbert says don't build the loop, and you've got more pollution.
We need, I think, to start looking now at ways to impact the air quality problems in Oklahoma. Not to mention the congestion, but the air quality problems in Oklahoma City are significant, and they're not going to get any better.
We as a state don't have enough money to build more highways on our own. We're not a big enough state for the feds to pay, so we pay.
We don't have enough money to do the I-40 project at this point. So I don't see the state having any money that it could spend on a project like this for 15 years.
Now, the Oklahoma Department of Transportation wants to stress there is absolutely no decision yet on whether or not the outer loop will be built, and if it is built, whether or not it will be a turnpike. That's something we're all just going to have to watch and wait and see. Reporting live from I-35 in Coffee Creek, Terry Watkins, Eyewitness News 5.
The east side of the metro with a superhighway or outer loop. The 5 proposed paths from Norman has folks from Norman to Edmond worried that they'll be bulldozed at some point. Choctaw City Council was packed tonight with citizens wanting their say about all this, and their message was a simple no, but they didn't get to deliver it. New tonight, Tamara Pratt talks to some folks who were mad when they got to the meeting and madder when they left.
Oh, they certainly were, Jennifer. See this parking lot I'm standing in? Well, folks tell me it has never been as full as it was tonight here at Choctaw City Hall, and that reason was simply for that outer loop. You know, that big road that's supposed to go around the metro. But these folks tonight here in Choctaw feel like they're getting the run around, and they're pointing a lot of fingers at city councils where they're starting off with. Tonight, the folks packed into this building. You can see it here. One woman brought a no-build resolution. She hoped to be able to pitch that to the city council, but she says they stopped her in her tracks.
What they did in there may have been by the law, but it certainly wasn't ethical. It wasn't moral.
And for the city manager and the rest of them to be hiding in there and not giving us an opportunity to ask them questions about it, I think is we all came out here. I'm upset, and there's a lot of other people here upset.
Now, one of the reasons City Council probably deferred this was so that they could find another meeting place for all of these people to be at and hear all of these public comments. But, you know, these folks, they just finished talking to the City Council members. Basically, what they did is they tell me they just bullied their way in and said, "Hey, let us say our speech. Let us tell you what we want and how we feel about this road." The folks here in Choctaw really feel like they're just being punted off to another meeting, Jennifer.
Tamara, the folks you talked to tonight pretty serious about this. They're talking about some kind of a petition drive?
They absolutely are. They are really pointing the finger at city councils, basically saying, you guys are stonewalling us. We should have known about this a long time ago, and don't feel like these people, the folks that they elected to represent them, are doing their job, and they're willing to take it as far as they need to. They've talked, kind of messed around with the idea of a petition, and possibly even an attorney if it goes that far, Jennifer.
All right, Tamara. For those who live along any of these proposed outer loop routes, we want to let you know that there is a meeting tomorrow on this topic that will be open to the public. The Outer Loop Advisory Committee meets at 3 o'clock at the location you see there on your screen, 6600 North Harvey, and that's Suite 200. No decisions or recommendations will be made at this meeting, but we're told there will be plenty of discussion and time for questions allotted. From people who couldn't get into the meeting and wanted to know what happened. New tonight, News 9's Gary Horker shows us how battle lines are being drawn in the metro.
Well, Jennifer, we're talking quite simply about threatening the most valuable thing to any local tribe, that is sacred ground and a spiritual connection to their ancestors. Behind every set of headlights trying to get into tonight's meeting, there are people worried about losing land to the government. Inside, it's crowded chaos.
If we don't clear the aisles, we have to suspend the meeting.
But of all the concerned people packing in here, few have more to lose than the local Indian tribes. To you, this might look like undeveloped property, but under this earth lies cultural, religious, and ceremonial artifacts and Indian burial grounds. And tribes say the state is not listening.
We want to feel like we're competent people, and then instead of just saying, oh, this is vacant land, you know, this is for the takings, we wish that they would adhere to some of the items that we are humans too, and then we have feelings instead of just taking advantage of it and condemning the property. That's all we ask for.
The issue is getting local tribes national attention.
This is very personal. It's a spiritual issue. This goes right to the heart of our existence.
I think when we go through something like it, it educates everybody on the government, how big it's coming down on the simple person.
And today, late today, the State Department of Transportation met with National American Indian grave protection experts out of Nevada that flew in just for this issue. The DOT says they made little progress, but the Native Americans I talked to tonight say that they are not satisfied and they are going to make this a national issue if their demands are not met very soon. Jennifer?
Well, and Gary, one of the reasons why the tribes are so upset is we're talking about quite a bit of sacred ground.
Absolutely. One of the 11 corridors proposed, and we're talking about an interstate running like right underneath me. It runs through 11 sacred burial grounds. They're at risk, and another alignment would cut into 8 sacred grounds. Some of those, I'm told, predate Columbus, get this, by 100 years. Jennifer?
All right, Gary. Tribes say it's illegal for the federal government not to notify all tribes about the plan for this very reason. Now, there is some time for everybody to get this worked out. The Transportation Department says construction might not happen for 15 to 20 years because the money is not available yet.
Building highways, that was the issue before the Norman City Council tonight in a meeting packed with concerned citizens. Eyewitness News 5 reporter Jim Patton is covering the metro tonight, and he joins us live from Norman. So, Jim, what happened?
Well, Jennifer, basically what happened tonight is the Norman City Council voted on a recommendation to the state related to this highway project that has become known as the Loop, or the I-35 bypass. Now, we have a map to show you. You can see that it is basically a project that would put a section of freeway through the northern and eastern sections of Norman. And tonight, the council made clear what they'd like to see is something that wipes this map completely clean.
That's the problem. It's going to be in somebody's backyard if we're going to have a loop.
Not in my backyard, and most of all, not through my home. That was the message from more than 100 people who crowded the Norman Public Library, letting the council know what they thought about a proposed highway loop through northern and eastern Norman.
These people that are voting to build these roads, they don't have a house in the middle of that road.
Concerns that the council heard, voting 7-2 to tell the state we don't want the loop at all.
We need to send a strong message that let's put the bulk of the money that we have in transportation to where it's needed and do all we can to work along the expansion of the I-35 corridor.
But those dissenting warned, be careful what you wish for.
Because this is our only opportunity we have to seize a significant amount of money to provide you with better access to that area.
And those on both sides of the issue are well aware the city's vote is only a recommendation. The state will have the final word, and the highway project may still move forward. In fact, I spoke to a number of people here tonight who are convinced that the battle has just begun. In fact, there is a meeting here tomorrow night, a citizens meeting, to continue the effort to organize against the state, which they are sure is bent on building this highway. Reporting live from Norman, Jim Patton, Eyewitness News 5.
Alex Cameron.
And I'm Amy Hawley. Tonight, we have learned transportation officials are dropping plans to study the proposed Eastern Outer Loop that would go around Oklahoma City. Now, talk of this outer loop has caused protests from Norman to Edmond. And new at 10 o'clock, our Julie Dyson has the very latest. And Julie, it sounds like residents' opposition was heard loud and clear.
The people of central Oklahoma have spoken, and we have listened. Those are words from the Oklahoma Transportation Secretary Neil McClain in a joint statement with the Association of Central Oklahoma Governments, otherwise known as ACOG. Those officials say they have suspended their consideration of the outer loop that would go around the eastern portion of the Oklahoma City area. I want to show you a diagram of the proposed outer loop, which would be designed to relieve highway congestion that's projected to be here in 20 years. The talk of the Eastern Outer Loop has sparked a lot of vocal opposition in the last few months from citizens of Edmond, Choctaw, and Norman especially. Despite this announcement, we know that the group from Edmond, at least, opposing the outer loop is not celebrating just yet.
They will be well prepared in case it comes up again. We've been told that there may be a NAFTA study that's looked at later on down the road, and we don't know exactly what that means, if it's just the same thing with a different hat, but we'll be watching all the time.
Jerry says his group, which includes 700 residents of Edmond, has already met to talk about this, and they've agreed not to disband just yet. The Transportation Secretary says the Eastern Outer Loop study has been suspended because not only public opposition, but also because of a lack of enthusiasm among elected officials in those communities. Again, this announcement affects only the eastern portion of the Outer Loop. The southwest portion of the Outer Loop will continue to be studied. Amy and Alex, back to you.
And Julie, Native Americans too have been upset that some of these proposed corridors run right through sacred burial grounds.
But the actual plans, nothing's changed.
So the neighborhood committees that formed to fight the Outer Loop say they're not disbanding. In fact, they've already scheduled another meeting for next month to discuss their concerns because they don't believe the state will ever back down on plans to build the Eastern Loop. Lance.
And we'll continue to follow it, Laura. Thank you.
Aren't celebrating just yet. On Metro News, Julie Dyson joins us from I-35. And Julie, residents who fought that Outer Loop are still doubting this.
Sure, Amy, they're glad to know after months of speaking out against this highway project, somebody finally heard them. But even though it appears they won this fight, tougher battles may lie ahead.
This is the end of the Outer Loop unless there is a large cry from eastern Oklahoma County wanting a freeway, and I don't think we're going to see this.
But homeowners are still wary, even if this Outer Loop plan goes away. They fear two things: that NAFTA will still bring in an I-35 truck bypass, or that the state will build a turnpike along the same route.
All the governor has to do is wave a wand over a map and a turnpike appears. So nothing's really changed.
So for homeowners from Edmond to Norman, the threat of a new highway running through their backyard still seems real. You're not really celebrating it.
No, I popped a Diet Coke, but champagne is premature.
A lot of those opposition groups aren't thinking about backing down or disbanding yet. In fact, word is Jones may soon be joining the fight to keep this highway where it is. Back to you.
And Julie, meanwhile, officials tell News 9 they'll study other ways to reduce congestion on I-35, and some of those ideas out there now include making the highway wider and building special lanes for carpools.
Last month, News 9 told you the government study of a superhighway from Norman through Edmond was killed because of intense pressure from homeowners who feared losing their property. There were 5 plans for the 8-lane Outer Loop, a loop to relieve traffic jams on I-35, 15 years down the road from now. It turns out the Outer Loop isn't dead at all. Tonight we've learned the loop has just changed locations. If you were concerned about the Outer Loop before, we have some Metro news you'll want to hear tonight. Gary Horker is above I-35 to show us why the Outer Loop is back.
I'll tell you why it's coming back, Jennifer. It's because of one word, and that word is NAFTA. The folks who study traffic, the engineers, they all agree that I-35 is going to one day become the main drag for truckers hauling goods from Mexico all the way to Minnesota. They say in 15 years, traffic back here could become absolutely brutal. You know, last month they killed plans for an outer loop running east of I-35. The new grand scheme is to run the thing southwest of here. The people who gathered at the Outer Loop meeting are homeowners, and they represent towns in the path of the project. The Department of Transportation is unveiling a new year-long study to find out the best way to relieve traffic on I-35. They're studying everything from commuter rail to a truck bypass, and there's genuine fear the government will condemn thousands of homes unless there's a major public outcry.
You don't tell them what you want, then they're going to do what they want, and that may not correspond with your wishes.
When you understand the NAFTA coalition and you start doing your homework, the more you find out, the scarier it gets.
You know, the big controversy and the major fear all those folks share in common is they're fearing the government's going to start declaring eminent domain and start declaring properties that they're going to have to buy to clear the big path, the corridor, for the outer loop going around I-35, no matter what the public says. So as long as this study continues, this controversy is going to be far from over. Jennifer?
Gary, we're told the government study will be finished late this year. In the meantime, the Department of Transportation is promising to have more informational meetings with the public.
Caused more controversy than our report last week on a proposed outer loop highway on the east side of I-35. You'll remember these routes were proposed by ODOT to help heavy truck traffic bypass the metro. This idea infuriated homeowners in its path, and so in February, ODOT killed the plan. But last week we showed you the outer loop idea is in fact still alive. Our report generated dozens of outrage calls to ODOT, and tonight they say any outer loop plans are out of their hands. Tonight, News 9 takes an in-depth look into who really has the power to build the outer loop. Gary Horker's at I-35, where the story begins.
Well, Kelly, when ODOT told us last February the eastern portion of the outer loop was dead, they were telling the truth, but they were speaking only for their agency. Keep in mind, they were only speaking for ODOT. Turns out another state agency, the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority, has a legal right to build the eastern outer loop, and a private group would like to see them build it. But Dave Moore of Control the Outer Loop Coalition is finding proof that someone else can build it anyway.
The Continental Gateway Authority very much intends, as part of their plans, to build the eastern outer loop.
The Continental Gateway Authority is a group hoping to build a huge international cargo trade center along I-35 in McClain County. Now, they like the idea of an eastern outer loop, and state law gives the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority the legal right to build a toll road on the east side. This is the Continental Gateway Authority's idea of an eastern route, but ODOT says
the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority does not have free reign to go out and build turnpikes wherever they please. They have to go through a very stringent legislative process.
We've got a Wizard of Oz situation to where the state transportation people are saying, oh, pay no attention to that law behind the curtain, or pay no attention to that Continental Gateway Authority behind the curtain, and we're not buying it.
So the controversy continues, and that man will keep up his vigil to keep everybody's feet to the fire. For the record, the Oklahoma Department of Transportation has nothing more to do with any study of an eastern outer loop. If you're concerned about this, the groups you should keep an eye on is the Continental Gateway Authority and the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority, and those groups only. Kelly?
All right, Gary. ODOT is still looking at a major investment to put an outer loop on the west side of the metro where there is less resistance. One Norman group predicts there will be more than 30,000 more trucks on I-35 next year because of NAFTA.